Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here. We're glad you made it to the podcast. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, and Ride, real innovation delivered with excellence. With me is Mr. Ryan Gray, our editor-in-chief, keeping an eye on all things happening in the school transportation industry. Ryan, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Always fun and great to be here with the nation.
I know, T-minus like 2 weeks or less.
Less than that, yeah.
STN Expo East. We're going to be headed to Charlotte. The agenda is full. We've shipped our stuff. The flights are booked. We're ready to go, man. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely, yes. Just a matter of days away. So if you haven't registered already, I mean, you can certainly register on site, but I think you can still get online and reserve your spot today. So yeah, Tony, there's tons of great sessions, great training opportunities. The Transportation Director Summit, of course, which has been highly popular with our Transportation Director set. The Green Bus Summit, we're introducing Bus Technology Summit. Well, we really introduced it last year in Indianapolis, but evolving that this year alongside Green Bus Summit. And again, like you mentioned, Tony, dozens of sessions, some really great general sessions, a great keynote from Scott Welly. I know we've talked with him here on the podcast, and he had an article actually in the March issue. So if you want to check that out and see what's in store for you, head over to stnonline.com.
Wonderful. All right, Ryan, before we get to the headlines, we've got a quick message.
The safest family of electric school buses just got bigger. Meet the Creator, the all-new Type C school bus from Ride. With seating for up to 78 students, the Creator joins the Achiever and Dreamer to form the most advanced lineup of electric school buses on the road. Visit ride.co to discover the future of student transportation. Ride. We are changing the way kids get to school.
Well, Ryan, happy 250th episode of the STN podcast. I feel like, since March of 2020 to now, that is a lot of episodes we've clicked off. So lucky 250. Here we are. We made it.
Absolutely. And it's amazing. It's that's 5 years. It doesn't seem like that long, but time flies when you're having fun, they say. And it's been fun launching this podcast. I mean, it's been a dream of mine for many years, and it, came to fruition. We were thinking about doing it, and we were planning to do it in 2020, but planning to launch it actually at STN Expo West in Reno that July. But like you said, COVID happened, and we saw an opportunity, everything ground to a halt, and we became a mostly podcast company. I mean, we still had the magazine. We were putting the magazine out and covering what we could, a lot of COVID on the website, stnonline.com. But for a long time, that was really what kept us going, was the podcast. Just, us doing things and talking and trying to figure out what was going on and trying to, put our finger up in the sky and see which way the wind was blowing with COVID. And look at us now.
Yeah, I always love hearing people reach out at the conferences, pull me aside and say, "Oh, I love your podcast. I love hearing you guys." Or, someone the other day was like, "Hey, I listen to your podcast when I'm mowing my lawn or walking my dog or, in the car, at home." Who would have thought school transportation news is gone all those places where it's a content of convenience in a very on-demand society. We're all so busy. So to catch content at our leisure is very nice to listen to it. And we're glad you guys tune in every week. And we love sharing the news and headlines and great interviews as well. Taylor Ekbatani is going to be talking with Heather Handschin, the supervisor of bus operations for Prince William County Public Schools in Virginia in just a little bit. Obviously, Taylor has been a great addition to the podcast as well. She steps in when you're busy. When we were putting that March issue to bed, Ryan, Taylor jumped in with me with the TNT podcast, we love to call it. So always having fun with that. But that March issue looked really good. If you guys haven't checked it out, go to stnonline.com, click on the magazine tab, and check out the latest March edition. It should be in the mailbox soon. If you haven't received it yet, make sure and keep an eye out. If you can't wait, go to the website. You can peruse the digital version, but that print version will be with you very soon. All right, Ryan. So top headlines so far. Well, it's kind of a headline we've seen multiple times before, which is the School Bus Safety Act. It is renewed for the sixth time to see if we can give it over the finish line. But it definitely is going to have a lot of hurdles with all the fiscal kind of examination that's going on at the federal level right now. I'm not sure if it has a leg to stand on or not. What do you think?
Well, my betting money would be no, just because this is the sixth time since 2018 that the School Bus Safety Act has been introduced. And it's the same players, Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee, Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, both Democrats. They were never able to push it over the finish line previously. Obviously the end of the Trump 45 first administration, and then, of course, throughout the Biden administration, a couple of years, of course, like we were talking about COVID earlier, that really took over. But what this bill would seek to do is, certainly part of it would be set up a grant program, which, we're talking about grants. To your point, Tony, we're talking about fiscal issues. Right now, probably not the best time to talk about the federal government spending more money. But what this bill would do is it would create that grant program to help school districts pay for essentially 3-point lap shoulder seat belts, event recorders, electronic stability controls, automatic braking systems, those emergency braking systems, firewalls, and fire protection in the school bus. So a lot of the things that essentially the National Transportation Safety Board has been arguing for and calling for years, for decades almost. So again, some great technology here that we're talking about. Now, a lot of this is already standard or pretty close to standard. You look at ESC, electronic stability controls, even the automatic emergency braking is what we see from like the likes of Bendix and other companies that are working with the school bus manufacturers that provide those collision avoidance and collision mitigation systems. So again, a lot of this stuff is already out there. We have seen a couple states recently pick up the seatbelt baton and introduce some legislation, Oklahoma, for example. But certainly it will be interesting to see where this goes. Again, my betting money is it will be hard for it to gain any more traction since it previously never really was. But it's one of those feel-good stories, talking about that great American school bus story, harkening back to something Bluebird was talking about, about another program, the EPA Clean School Bus Program. You really can't lose with keeping the story about the children and about safety. So it's definitely, a well worth cause. But we will see if this sixth time is a charm.
So, Ryan, I know we're doing a lot of coverage of AASA for the Superintendent of the Year Award. Our own Taylor Ekbatani has been doing a lot of reporting, a lot of interviews, some great stories on different districts: Peoria Public School District, Jefferson County Schools in Birmingham, Alabama, Bentonville School District, Bentonville, Arkansas, home of Walmart, and School District of Indian River County in Vero Beach, Florida. So a lot of great stories up there of the finalists of the AASA Superintendent of the Year Award, hailing from Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, and Illinois. So we can't wait to hear who the winner is going to be. And just a little later, Taylor might have a treat for you during her interview. So guys, stay tuned to see who the winner might be. All right, Ryan, we got other great headlines coming up just after this. Hey guys, what do software, hardware, and safety have in common? One word: TransFinder. At the STN Expo in Reno, TransFinder won 3 Innovation Choice Awards, voted on by STN Expo attendees for best software, best hardware, best safety technology. TransFinder's Route Finder plus routing solution and apps, Stop Finder and Wayfinder, are well known in the industry. Not everyone realizes TransFinder provides hardware like card readers, tablets, and mounts. And as for safety, Patrol Finder for schools is TransFinder's latest solution designed to make buses and campuses safer. TransFinder's president and CEO, Antonio Civitella, said the recognition means so much because it's voted on by STN Expo attendees. Civitella said, "We know a lot is riding on TransFinder because a lot is riding on those yellow buses that travel through our communities. TransFinder must continue to innovate as more is being expected of transportation departments from district leadership as well as parents." Learn more at transfinder.com. That's transfinder.com. All right, Ryan, I know we had some really interesting stuff in the private sector happen. Transit Technologies acquires Bus Hive, who's known for field trip software. So Transit Technologies also had acquired some time ago Bite Curve, which is kind of an overlay product over the routing software for dispatch. So another acquisition from Transit Technologies. They also have quite a few other brands, which is interesting, that really fall into this pupil transportation space. So new player is emerging real quick through acquisition.
Absolutely. So, with that Bite Curve acquisition last August, certainly Transit Technologies is making some waves in the student transportation industry. Are they done? We'll wait and see. I mean, certainly they've been aggressive in acquiring some of these well-known companies, and I think that's the latest thing that we've seen here. So we have, the Bite Curve with their data analytics that really works with everybody under the sun, GPS providers and whatnot. So you have that aspect that Transit Technologies now has under its umbrella. Now you have the field trip software and that trip and charter management, and it brings to the table again that personnel and driver compliance and even vehicle preventative maintenance. So there's some good synergies there with the data analytics, of course. And we'll see what's next coming from Transit Technologies. I know I'm looking forward to speaking with President and CEO Jerry Leonard very soon. So stay tuned. We'll have an article, I'm sure, up on stnonline.com. So like I said, keep that browser bookmarked.
Yeah, we also have a big announcement from Cummins. The long-awaited Cummins engine platform has finally arrived. What's the news on that, Ryan? What's the details?
Well, the diesel aspect of what Cummins refers to as HELM platform, or that's, we've known it as that fuel agnostic, where you can swap out the engine heads. And we know that the diesel here, this announcement, they did previously make an announcement about gasoline and octane. Now these buses will not be available for another couple years. I know we know that the previous announcement about octane was production will start late 26 and then go into full production in 2027. With the diesel platform, they're calling it the B7.2. So that will be in 2027, still awaiting some clarification on exactly when. So I know I'm going to be speaking with the folks, our good friend Francisco Lagunas, who is the GM of North American Bus for Cummins. We're going to be talking soon. So again, there's an article coming out. We're going to really dive into that and what that means, evidently. And with the EPA GHG phase 3 rule, we know that has driven a lot of the technological advancements that we're going to be seeing in diesel, that we're going to be seeing with the B7.2 specifically. Now we know that there's some additional costs to that. So finding out exactly what that entails to meet those emissions requirements. And the story, Tony, has been that today's diesel, what you can buy here in 2025, is over 90% cleaner than what you bought in 2010. So I'd like to know, how much cleaner is this new diesel that meets the EPA mandates? And again, we've been talking about this. We're seeing a refocus on diesel. Recently in the magazine, I spoke with Thomas Built Buses and TJ Reed, who's their new president CEO, and their parent company, Daimler Truck North America, has reinvested heavily into the Detroit diesel business. And of course, Daimler has such a large heavy duty truck footprint. So that's really going to that first. But we know that that's going to impact school buses in a very big way. Here we now have word from Cummins. We know what's coming from them. So certainly amid all of the things that are happening right now in Washington, D.C., and that are affecting states nationwide, what's happened with CARB, the California Air Resources Board, where they chose not to fully implement their advanced clean trucks rule, at least for the dozen or so states that follow that regulation, where essentially only a certain number of diesel engines could go into those states. So we're seeing a relaxation of that, and a lot of these states are saying, "Hey, we're no longer going to follow that." So certainly, what we were talking about the last year or so, Tony, does seem to be coming to fruition, where there is a world where diesel is making a comeback.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like. I think, again, looking at the agenda at STN Expo East, a lot of the OEM partners that are part of the Bus Technology Summit and Green Bus Summit on the energy side of things are talking more fuel of choice, right? Obviously, electric has dominated the landscape. Bluebird, IC, and Thomas all are offering kind of a broad spectrum of fuels, with Bluebird being the only provider of propane. But now we have gas, we have diesel, we have electric. So there are other choices out there. And then you've got pure play companies like our partners at Ride. They are a pure electric play, right? And so you have to decide what is the best fit for you as your fleet, your geography, your funding. I don't think electric goes away at all, right? I know there's a big question about CSB federal funding. And the reality is that we all knew that this was probably going to be a one-time hit of $5 billion. And it looks like the Fed keeps signaling that they want the states and localities to make the decisions. And that goes for schools. We don't know what's going to happen with Department of Education being stripped down. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of change, which makes people very uneasy about what's going on. I mean, look what happened last week with tariffs. Zelensky comes to the Oval Office, things go awry. All of a sudden they're pulling, support out of Ukraine. Is that just political posturing, or does that affect things on a global scale? Tariffs, they've reinitiated tariffs. Now Trump meets with GM, Ford, and Stellantis and gets a 1-month delay, as Carolyn Levitt said, to keep competitive, right? To have a strategically competitive price in the market so they're not at a detriment. And I think there's all these questions: is what products fall under these tariff rules, right? So, and does Trump roll them back, or is it just a political bargaining chip? It's just, you can't barely catch your breath.
Yeah.
Things are just evolving so quickly.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of this, you got to remember the president, he fashions himself as a master negotiator. And that's what we've seen. A lot of this has been negotiations. So as we were going to press, even the tariff on Mexican products on Mexico, that was delayed by another month. So, we're seeing things change in real time. And I think in talking with the different OEMs that they have, of course, have been hesitant to comment publicly on what the impact of the tariffs will be. And I think a lot of it is because there's so much negotiations going on right now. They're continuing, and it's changing the landscape. So again, we're kind of living minute by minute, second by second here. So I think that certainly, I think we're going to see some tariffs, and we're going to see the ones with China stay in place. We don't know what's going to happen with Canada. Will this latest development with Mexico impact that? Maybe, probably, we'll see. But right now, I think that, in terms of the fuel of choice, I think that is definitely the overarching, or one of the overarching themes that I've been looking at right now, regardless of what's going on with politics or not. That certainly we see the pathway to diesel opening back up. And I think that that's a good thing for the industry. A lot of the environmentalists might disagree with me, but in terms of looking at school buses as what they are, they're a tool. in the toolbox. And when you have 80% of school buses nationwide operating on diesel, that's not going to go away overnight. We knew that. We've been talking about that. That's no secret. But I think that we will see from this perhaps some renewed confidence from the consumer, the school districts, the school bus contractors, knowing that there truly are options to them, that they're not going to be pigeonholed and forced to go in a zero emissions direction when it's not ready or they're not ready. So certainly it will be interesting to see how this continues to unfold. But I would think that there is some renewed confidence, at least from that standpoint, in the industry.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to play out. And definitely STN Expo in Charlotte will be a great kind of sounding board with what people want to see, what they're interested in purchasing. We have our Transportation Director Summit, which is virtually maxed out with 84 directors and 15 different sponsors. We always ask survey questions about what people want to procure, what are their top challenges. So we'll see what the survey results look like, and we'll unpack those at the conference and talk more about them editorially in the magazine and online. So it's really great to kind of get the voice of the customer and really hear what you guys are most interested in and really what's moving the needle for you. So I'm really looking forward to that, and can't wait to see you guys March 20th through the 25th out in Charlotte. And coming up next, we have Taylor Ekbatani with her great interview and some exciting news.
Hey, Ryan, Tony, we got news from New Orleans, Louisiana. Dr. Walter B. Gonsolin Jr. is the 2025 National Superintendent of the Year. So exciting. He is the superintendent for Jefferson County Schools in Alabama. This was announced on March 6th in New Orleans, Louisiana at the National Conference on Education. And he's actually the first Alabama superintendent to receive the award since the program started in 1989. So super congrats to him and his team. His transportation operations is ran by Kevin Snowden, so a friend of the industry as well. We had both of them on the podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it, check out episode 248. Dr. G and Kevin break down their transportation operations. They are doing some exciting things with Wi-Fi and their signature academies, which is really neat. So there's an article as well. Check it out. Okay, now let's get into the interview. Hello, nation. Episode 250. That's awesome. I know Ryan and Tony were just talking about it. So super excited to have the 250th guest here with us. Let's welcome to the podcast stage Heather Handschin. She's the supervisor of bus operations for Prince William County Public Schools in Virginia. So welcome, Heather, to the 250th episode of the podcast.
Hello, good afternoon, Taylor. Thanks so much for having me, and congratulations on 250 episodes. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked that we haven't had you on in the last 250th, so this is super special.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Heather, great to have you on the podcast, and you're such a friend to STN. I know you come to all the TSD conferences, and you're always treating our Reg staff with so much love and kindness. I know you bring great goodies and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for your support there and for looking out for them as well.
Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to get to go to conference. And it really is a family, right? We're an industry, but we're also one big happy family, and we have to take care of each other. And I do think when we wrap ourselves around each other, it just makes all of us stronger.
Yeah, and in your personality too, you're just a bubble of light at the conferences. And so I'm excited to see you at STN Expo East. Obviously, it's our first time, right, hosting it in Charlotte. But what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so we're really excited, number one, to see the conference come to the East Coast. For us, that's going to be the difference of having one person attend and having to make accommodations to get there and being able to bring our whole team. So I'm very excited, not only that I'm going to be able to attend, but we're also bringing a first-time attendee this year. We're bringing a trainer with us that's worked for the department long enough to retire from the department and yet has never experienced the wonderful things that happen at a conference. So we're really excited to get in the car and drive a group down.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. How long is the drive for you guys?
So I think it's going to be about 4.5 hours. So
Okay.
we'll do a lot of collaborating in the car and sightseeing perhaps, and we can't wait to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you looked at the schedule? Is there anything that's standing out to you that you're looking forward to hearing about or learning?
I am. When I look through the agenda, there's good things that are happening every day. And the problem is you have to pick and choose because you can't do it all. So I do have some of my favorites. I'm definitely interested in seeing the speakers. The speakers are always my favorite. When I looked at the list, we have some folks that have presented many times. And then there were some names that I don't recognize. So I cannot wait to hear Mr. Bus Driver. I'm excited to hear what that's about. We're also interested in learning about security and preparedness. I actually am looking into new technology, so it's going to be important for me to hear what's happening, what people are talking about, and what's new on the market.
Yeah, Mr. Bus Driver is definitely going to be a favorite. I can tell it now.
I think so.
Yeah, he was on the podcast last week. So for those listeners who aren't familiar or don't know who we're talking about, listen to the last week's podcast and then stay tuned because I'm sure we'll have articles and posts coming out of the Mr. Bus Driver session.
Yes, can't wait.
So, Heather, we're recording this and it is Women's History Month. So, shout out to, both of us here. But kind of looking at you personally, how did you get started in the industry? What interested you in school transportation?
Well, Taylor, I really appreciate you asking that. I was hoping you would. I want to tell you a little bit about my story because it is about strong women that do a wonderful job. I've been in the industry for more than 20 years now, and I was really recruited by my son's bus driver. I was that parent at the bus stop that had an amazing bus driver. Her name was Miss Donna. She knew every student by name. She knew what grade they were in. She knew all of us as parents, who we were, who was supposed to be at the stop and who wasn't. And she really cared about our children. So when the opportunity presented itself to join the team, I had that as an example. And if I can say anything else to anyone that's listening, I would say this is our best advertisement for the people transportation industry is the people that are on our buses right now. So Miss Donna, thanks.
I love that. So she inspired you then to get in the industry. And what has kind of your career looked like since then?
He did. So I started as a bus driver, and it was great for me. I was very involved at my son's school at the time, but I wanted to also learn more about the community because we were new to the area. And it really allowed me the flexibility, number one, to be involved in school, be there for school things, but also, as I said, get to know the community and be a part of the community at large. At a certain point, I realized that I was looking to contribute even more, and I kind of migrated into the office. And that's where I have to tell you, behind the scenes, there's another group of amazing people that a lot of folks don't even realize exist. We live our lives in the fishbowl of the yellow bus, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that help out and do amazing things. And I was fortunate to be such a part of an amazing group of people.
I love that. Yeah, because, so much does happen behind the scenes that isn't necessarily talked about a lot.
That's true. That's true. And when you work together as a team, even when it seems next to impossible to get the job done, people come together and they're so passionate about what they do, and they all have the same mission of keeping the wheels of education rolling in mind, that it just really all comes together.
So tell me a little bit about Prince William County and your role as the supervisor of bus operations.
Yeah, so I've been with Prince William County Schools for almost 7 years now. We're a large district in Northern Virginia. We have 92,000 students, give or take, and we run about 900 buses per day. So we have a lot of folks on the road every day. I love what I do. I love this county, and I love what we represent. I mentioned earlier how school buses are in a fishbowl, and we do actually represent the entire school system when we're out on the streets. I give the example often that whenever there's an advertising campaign about anything that has to do to education, probably one of the two most common things that you'll see are an apple and the yellow school bus. So we really do take it to heart that we are representing this entire education industry.
I love that. What kind of initiatives are you guys looking at? Any technology, any focus on training this year?
Both. Yeah. So both of those. It's 2025. So we really have to leverage technology for what we're doing. We have been industry-wide through a driver shortage for so long now, but we really can't use that anymore. It's time for us to kind of do some different things. So what we've been focused on is learning to do more with what we have. And I think that's where we can use technology to our benefit. making decisions based on data. A big thing my team has done this year is worked on-time performance, because that's been our number one goal this year. We want to make sure that students get to school on time and they arrive ready to learn. So it's important that we're a part of that. So we use data all the time. We collect everything, and then we use that to our advantage. We've really took a fine look this year on the schools that weren't performing as well as we'd like them to be, and really improving on that service, because we want to see everybody reach their goals. For us, we put some lengthy goals in place. We had a school that at the beginning of last year, we were servicing them at about 31% on-time rate. We have changed that to almost 90% this year. So the team has really worked hard and made it happen. So yes, technology is something. You mentioned the other thing, training. That's a key point for us too. We have a great group of first line supervisors, and many of them have come up through the ranks. They've come from our fleet, and it's really important that they understand the difference between being a buddy and being a boss, right? So providing them with the tools that they need to be successful so that they can support our drivers and attendants out on the street is just so important.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the driver shortage isn't an excuse, and I think that we need to get that on t-shirts, because we talk about the driver shortage all the time, right? But you sat here and you said, okay, let's stop using it as an excuse and let's see what we can do, to use our resources wisely.
Right. And one of the things that we've done is really look at our routes and see what can be consolidated. We recognize that not all students are riding buses. So what can we do differently with the same amount of resources that we have? We've looked at our walk to stop policies, and we've extended some walking distances because that's helping our buses get to where they need to get faster and picking up more students efficiently. That has also helped.
Yeah, I think that's great. Are you guys using any technology providers for routing software?
So we do. We do use technology. We're also working on a complete overhaul of our system. So this is a wonderful time for us. It's going to be a big change, and we're both excited and nervous about that change and what's to come. And again, going back to the conference, this is a great place to pick up information. I can't wait for the trade show, because there's probably things out there that, were new yesterday, but today they're obsolete, and there's something different that might help us even more.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's important for training too, right? Because now you're training people on how to use the technology. So they really go hand in hand.
They sure do. They sure do. One other thing I just wanted to say about the industry as a whole. I am borrowing this line from someone I spoke to recently, but it was such a great line. I wanted to share it with you all today. She said that what we do in pupil transportation is the most difficult, easy job you could ever have. And that is what I'd like to see on a t-shirt.
I love that. It's inspiring.
The last thing I want to talk about is just how important it is with your efforts, with all of our efforts for recruiting and retention. So now we've got the drivers, we've got the attendants, we've got the routes, but we need to make sure that our work family is happy. So we've put a really big priority on what we're doing for not only recruiting, that's important, but also how are we keeping people here? How are we making sure they understand that they belong here? So that's been a big focus in my division as well.
What have you found?
Well, what I found is that when people are happy coming to work, they do a better job. That's what I found. And when you can get your retention rates to increase, you're going to find success. For example, our retention rate right now is 99%. We're keeping people, and that makes a difference. We weren't even able to fill most of the positions that we had. We had a lot of vacancies last year. That's really turned around, and that is making the difference. I think for our drivers and attendants, they need to understand the why. Why are they doing what they do beyond just the fact that it's a job, and stressing the importance of their role in the education process.
Amen to that, honestly. Happy people love coming to work, so that's great.
It is true. It is true. I guess the only other thing I wanted to talk about today is that I want to thank you guys for what you do. We don't really have a lot of avenues to get together and network with our peers. We don't have a lot of standalone things that we can learn from. This is a very niche industry, even though we are so large. So I want to thank you and your team for what you do for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather. You just switched the roles on me here. I don't know what to say back, but I really appreciate that. And, we do love putting on these conferences and inviting people, and it's a great time to network. And it also teaches us, about aspects of the industry that maybe we're not covering. So it's really important out there, our listeners, if you're doing something in the industry, please share it with us, because we want to share that with others. So thank you. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just a couple more questions to wrap up Women's History Month. Since we're filming in March, why is it important for women to be in a supervisory role?
Well, I think we need to model what we want to see. Our employees need to see that there is a pathway forward if that's what you choose. But if there's not and you're happy where you are, we need you to do that as well. So it's important that they're seeing women represented at all levels of the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. And then what advice do you have for young women who maybe want to be in a leadership position, maybe in school transportation, but maybe broader just in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of my mentors that really helped me get a leg up in this industry and help mold me into where I wanted to go explained to me that you're always interviewing for your next position. So I think it's important to realize that you give your best every day and that will be recognized. Maybe you're not even looking for something, but maybe someone's looking at you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Heather. And honestly, we have a lot of quotes that we can put on t-shirts from this interview. So we need to get with a t-shirt maker or something. But I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your knowledge. And I'm super excited to see you at STN Expo East in Charlotte in just 2 weeks, a week and a half. So really looking forward to it. And thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks, Taylor. Have a great afternoon.
A special thanks to Taylor and Heather for coming on. Great interview. Special thanks to Ryan as well for giving us his insights about all the latest headlines impacting you guys in school transportation. Also, thank you to our sponsors. We greatly appreciate you, TransFinder and Ride. Make sure and go visit them at their websites and tell them you heard about them on the STN podcast and how you love the content so much because we love having our sponsors on. That's how we pay the bills. Visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis in the school transportation industry. And don't forget, STN Expo East is just a few days away. You can go on site and register. Also, STN Expo West out in Reno, Nevada is open for our super early bird discount. Save $200. Go to stnexpo.com and you can find out more information about the conferences we've got coming up for you and all the great networking events too. Don't forget to subscribe and stream this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to Pods Nation. We're here every week for you without fail. 250 episodes in 5 years. It's been a great ride. We love you, Nation. We'll see you next week.